friends to a podcast that's been described as
emotional
and
terrifying.
One guy even said it was
So awesome it will shock you to the core.
finally another podcast about Godzilla and all his giant monster friends.
This could be the end of civilization.
Yeah, probably. So join your hosts, KES and Slick.
Ladies and gentlemen,
You're listening to the podcast from Odo Island. Hey, welcome to the podcast from Odo Island. Follow us on Twitter at Odo Island Pod. I am KES, and with me as always is the Jamie Tartt to my Roy Kent. Slick, how you doing?
I don't get that reference.
Yeah,
What was the reference?
it's from Ted Lasso.
Oh, right, because you're an Apple TV subscriber now.
Yeah, that show is really good.
I hear that. I have not.
And from someone who's not the biggest soccer fan in the world, for me to say the show's really good, it's a good show.
Okay. I have. I should check that out at some point. I hear it's quite enjoyable.
Yeah.
But Apple TV will be something kinda that we discuss at some point in this episode because we get a doozy.
Yeah.
Double header.
It's a double header. I feel like the Apple TV one is sort of like
Yeah, it's gonna be a little abridged probably.
yeah, that's our dessert.
Yeah.
Our main course is going to be obviously Godzilla -1.
Yes.
But do we have any appetizers with any news?
Yeah, so we are recording this on Friday evening, and news is moving quick, so I'm sure even by Monday when this episode drops, some of this will be a little bit out of date, but in Japan, -1 has been nominated for numerous awards now at this point. I don't know how, reputable or, any of those entities are that have nominated for awards, but I mean,
Best comedy.
sounds nice. Yeah, best I don't know if they're like the equivalent of like MTV Music Awards or Video Music or Video Awards or whatever, but I mean, either way, that's still good. Still performing well, even a month out. It sounds like. I saw that on Wednesday, the early advance screenings, the ones that you and I attended, are looks like -1 did about $2 million, if not more than $2 million. I would imagine that is probably quite a success.
Yeah.
I don't know if the budget is confirmed, but it sounds like -1 had a budget of somewhere probably in the neighborhood of like $15 million. I could see it probably being like a little bit higher. Like I could see it being, but I don't see it being higher than $30 million. And I think putting in perspective, just, as we'll probably go on to talk about how the movie looked and how it's performing, I'm guessing this is making a lot of money for Toho.
Yeah. I can't see this not being extremely profitable. Didn't they say it's like the highest grossing Godzilla movie?
Yes, I think, or maybe it's like the highest attended.
Maybe something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly the highest something or other. It's all positive.
Yeah.
Or I think it was like, yeah, I think it has because I think one of the movies I think had like a lot of extra money due to like 3D sales, but I think it's like eclipsed that now. So, but yeah, I think either way, I think this is probably. Oh wait, I think it's like top grossing, not most tickets sold. That's probably going to remain King Kong versus Godzilla in the 60s.
Oh, okay.
Or, I guess there's a million different ways to slice it. I could be wrong on that too. I didn't. Full disclosure, I read something about that, and then I didn't really commit it to memory.
Yeah.
But, all I know, it's doing well, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Um,
Any news on the Western front?
in terms of, well, I mean, we get the initial box office for Wednesday night being $2 million. Oh, you mean like with like the MonsterVerse?
There you go.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. God, kind of forgot about that because like of all the everything else going on right now.
I'm trying to steer you in the right
Thank
direction.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So again, as of Friday, we do not have a new Empire trailer, but it seems like a drop is imminent. I think there's a Godzilla X Kong panel at a convention, I think in Sao Paulo, on Sunday. I forget where. It was kind of a location that I didn't really expect. But certainly on social media, there's been, from the official Godzilla X Kong Instagram account, we've all enjoyed these bloody handprint paintings of a Scar. I think Scar King is the name that we're going with, and
I liked how they put it on the volleyball and it was Wilson.
Yeah, I was gonna say like everyone's instantly made Wilson memes of it. Although I do legitimately like the posters as they are.
Oh yeah, no, it looks awesome. Yeah,
it does lend itself to looking like Wilson,
which is fine. They should roll with it.
Yeah, Tom Hanks should just be in the movie at this point.
Oh, Godzilla! No, you're like my son, Chad.
But they updated that to also get a Godzilla style claw face poster and a Kong style one.
Mm-hmm.
The tagline so far, or the teaser line so far, have been like something is coming. Bow to your new king, and then with the Godzilla and Kong releases, they have added lines that say like unite to defeat the new king. So I'm guessing Scar is going to be quite the foe, quite the enemy.
Gondor has no king. Gondor needs no king.
Is that a Lord of the Rings reference?
Yes.
Okay, good. I kind of got that. People are kind of wondering if like how like in Kong Skull Island, if that like big like bloody print that was always on the side of Skull Island, is that now going to be retconned into being? I guess it doesn't really have to be retconned. I don't know if it was ever really confirmed that it was Kong that left that handprint, but or a member of Kong's species that left that handprint. So, maybe that's just a thing they're just kind of using as a nice little tie-in to the new movie. But yeah, it sounds like we're gonna get a trailer any time now for that.
Cool. Your
thoughts?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's just wild that we're getting so much Godzilla stuff right now.
Oh my god, it's incredible. See what else is there for other little news bits. There was a two quick things on the Battle Line front, because minus one Goji is coming to Battle Line as well. So there's two -1 figures coming, or units coming. One, from what we've seen from gameplay, is a little bit more of like a traditional heavy, like tanky ground unit. The one that I'm very excited for is this unit that you deploy on your side of the battlefield, and -1 just stands there and charges up his beam, fires his beam directly at your opponent's leader, and the AoE on it is like disgustingly huge, and it's just like a giant explosion. It's so ridiculous. I love it. And then also Koichi in his plane is another unit that is coming.
All right.
So, but also I want to give a quick shout out. We were talking about Frank Odo Rizzo the other week. I appreciate that you are now going by Odo Swede. Both of us have chuckled quite a bit about that, both now on mic and off mic. We see you. We appreciate you.
Yeah. I haven't really been logging into the old Battle Line lately. I've been sort of doing anything else, I guess.
Well, I've been playing Battle Line instead of doing anything else.
Yeah. You've been making up the ground for me.
Except the necessities in life.
I've been playing a lot of Mario RPG.
Yeah, it does look good.
Yep.
Did any news items that I missed that you would like to cover?
I don't think so.
Yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of like miscellaneous like merchandise news and stuff like that. But maybe we do the purchases. Maybe we can.
Yeah, there's one of those we could talk about in the purchases section, though.
Sure. Yeah. Well, so, all right. So to be clear, we are going to, in addition to -1, we are going to do episodes 3 and 4 of Monarch Legacy of Monsters. That will be later, because obviously -1 is the main event. So here's some additional minimal table setting.
Just before we get into anything with it, just spoiler.
Oh, yeah. Spoiler heavy.
We're going to be talking about what happens in the movie. So
we sure are. No holding back on the spoilers. So, I mean, a lot of like the budget, box office, all that stuff, I guess I just got to touch. So that has touched on. That's even going to make this even shorter. So the director and writer of Godzilla -1 is Takashi Yamazaki. As we've discussed before, he wrote Always Sunset on Third, where this like kind of prototype version of this version of Godzilla first appeared in that dream sequence. But also he did Godzilla the Ride, which in now my headcanon is Godzilla -1's future. That he will evolve, he will return and ultimately evolve into the Godzilla that's in Godzilla the Ride. So released in Japan, wide release on November 3rd of 2023, with a little preview release on October 27th, which is the same thing the 1954 Godzilla movie did. It had a little preview screening on October 27th. Also, that is the date that I met my wife. So symbolism is everywhere if you look for it.
Yeah.
that's a little bit of a reach, but hey,
No, I think that's pretty
yeah,
serendipitous.
yeah. And so again, in the U.S., had a limited fan special release on Wednesday of this week, and now here we are on December 1st, where now the whole world, well, not the whole world, the U.S. gets to see it, and new release dates all around the world are being announced left and right. It looks like a whole bunch of major territories are going to be getting -1. I saw Germany got a release date, and I wonder if they will bring back the Showa tradition of dubbing it so that every kaiju is from Frankenstein.
Yeah.
That would be hysterical.
Godzilla minus Frankenstein.
So we saw it in
We can't
IMAX.
unsee it.
No, we saw it at IMAX. Your initial thoughts?
So my biggest takeaway from going to see an IMAX movie for the first time since I started wearing glasses is it hurts my eyes. Number 2, this movie rules.
Yes,
this was such a good movie.
Yes, I think we can just get out of the way and just say we both fucking loved this movie.
Yeah.
But, sorry, continue.
So from the last episode I said, if you're not going to have too much of the monsters, I think there was plenty of monster stuff in this movie because it was used so well. But if you're not going to have too much of the monsters, you want the human cast and the plot to be good. And this is one of the best.
Yeah, I like the way that you kind of described it in our group chat, where you kind of said, even if you basically removed Godzilla from this movie,
if you make it like an oblique sphere, if you just take Godzilla out of the equation, make it something dumb like a big block of tofu, this movie still rules.
Yes. Yeah. Very, certainly a very grim in a good way, in an entertaining way story. I think there is, I think there's a lot of stuff that is very apparent, on the surface, like Koichi, and you get the story that centers around Koichi, Noriko, and the kind of what becomes their adopted child, Akiko, and you effectively get these people that are all orphaned or, all their families have been killed,
right?
In towards the end of the war, and they are now kind of a makeshift family, and there is this trauma that Koichi in particular is dealing with, as he is a kamikaze pilot who essentially abandoned his mission. And and I think there's a lot of themes here that are obvious to us, but I'm sure for people in Japan, I'm sure a lot of this hits even more in a powerful way, because I'm sure there's a lot of culture and history that we are just not totally, not that we're not sensitive to it, but it's just that we're just not exposed to, that we just didn't grow up with and just didn't know. And I think even what I'm getting at is even having that layer removed from us as Westerners, it's still an extremely powerful, moving human story.
No, I totally agree. When he first comes back and his neighbor's there and she's lost her kids, she kind of shames him for not being dead too,
right?
And so he has to carry this burden with him, it's just a permanent mental scar inside. He has nightmares about it. And we should talk about what happens that sort of gives him the nightmares first.
Yeah.
So he abandons his mission and flies to Odo Island, saying that his plane was defective. And so the team of engineers works on the plane. And they're like, we didn't find any defects. There shouldn't be anything wrong with it. And they're sort of talking about it. And they're like, oh, we need more people like you, who are willing to stand up for themselves and live. And then as night comes around, for lack of a better term, a dinosaur shows up on shore.
A Godzillasaurus.
Yeah, thank you. Not as big as that was in the Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, but same idea basically. He's more of a T-Rex size, and he comes on shore, and so the engineers kind of Koichi, go to your plane, you have a 20 millimeter gun, you can kill it right here. And so he's scared, so he goes to the plane and he freezes up, and Godzilla winds up they wind up shooting at Godzilla with rifles, and it does not go well for them.
I think Takibana, who's the main engineer that kind of persisted with the story, I think he was enraged that he actually abandoned his mission. like, because there's like a point where he says something because we didn't find anything faulty with the plane.
So
He
I'm
just,
remember
like,
it backwards. Like,
he
we need
just
more people like you at first, and then he finds no faults, and he's just kind of like,
Yeah, because there's like a part where he like stares at him. There's like, I remember it stuck with me because I remember when I was like, wow, it's like you can just see like the anger like seething inside of him. I thought that was really conveyed well.
Right, you're right. Yeah, I remembered it backwards.
So also like when the Godzillasaurus is like attacking everybody, so like Toho has ruled that Godzilla does not eat people.
Yeah,
and
so he
even
threw
though
him.
even though he grabbed him with his mouth, tossed them all.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty funny.
So it makes sense to me because, like, you see, like, the dead fish around Odo Island before Godzilla shows up, and nobody knows what it means. So clearly he doesn't feed on humans or animals. He has another source of nutrition. So that made sense to me, and, like, I didn't skip a beat for me. Like, it wasn't that significant. Like, if a Godzillasaurus ate somebody, I'd just been like, whatever.
I don't know, I like Godzilla not eating people, but
I'm just saying, like, in the pre-evolved form, if
sure.
he did, I
Yeah.
wouldn't really care that much.
I just thought it was funny though. Every time he grabbed one, he's like tossing it like miles.
Yeah.
I was like, that's pretty good. It's pretty nifty.
And so, like, Koichi wakes up on the beach, and the only other guy alive is the head engineer, who is, like, even more pissed at him now.
Yeah.
And, like, Koichi's on a boat coming back to the mainland, and, like, someone finds him and gives him, like, the pictures of all the dead engineers that he, like,
that was, like,
brutal.
Because I don't think they, like, you don't get that at first, right? I think, like, when he's on the boat, I think he just gives them, you see that he gives them something, then later he's like, oh, these are all,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, man. I was like, that's really sticking it to this poor kid.
Yeah.
You know, then he comes home, his whole family's dead, and
his house is destroyed.
Yeah, and then, but then he meets Noriko, who has, taken in this baby, Akiko, and she basically just kind of moves in, and they kind of make their, makeshift family. Koichi gets a job, basically being a minesweeper, where he's like, hey, I got this nifty job. Yeah, we cart around in a wooden boat, and we blow up mines that were detonated. But so kind of following the plot, I guess. Like so we kind of get this like little montage in the middle where it's like kind of like an American narration about like like they're kind of tracking Godzilla and stuff like that. And like that felt very Monsterverse inspired to me.
I was gonna say,
so
this almost feels like you could throw this into the Monsterverse like lore, and there aren't too many plot holes in it.
Yeah,
like the Bikini Atoll thing still happens.
Yeah. I just meant stylistically, the way it was like presented, it felt very like, whereas like kind of like quick cuts and this like moving chart and map, and I was like, oh, this feels like something we do in the Monsterverse. But yeah, I liked when the A-bomb test goes off, or I think it would be the H-bomb test at that point goes off, that all you kind of get that like Godzilla gets caught in it is like you hear his roar, and then it's like a very like burned, fire-filled close-up of his like eye opening and like a close-up of his scales, and I was like, oh shit, that was pretty well done.
Yeah, and so you don't see what Godzillasaurus becomes here, but like it's been about a year since the Odo Island incident, and then another 2 years before Godzilla kind of shows himself.
Yes. Let's talk about that scene.
Oh,
Why don't you set the table for us in that scene?
Okay, so you're starting to see all these, like, you get sort of like this rough montage of all these boats sort of like showing up, like destroyed, and they're like, was it a giant shark? Like, what could have done this? Like, it wasn't like missiles. Like that's not how this stuff happens. Like, was it a whale? Like, what could have done it? They don't know, and so they're trying to figure it out. And I believe it's an American boat is sort of down there, and they won't go check it out because they're afraid of the Russians.
Yeah.
And so the Russians won't go because they're afraid of the Americans. So Japan's just kind of like, we'll go. And so they send the mine boats out to sort of figure out what's going on and stall for time. Well, they send a few other boats out first, but they wind up getting destroyed too.
Yeah.
So they send these guys out to stall for time, and like the only guy who knows it is the professor guy who's on the boat. So they get there, and then all of a sudden they see the other boat that's out there just get taken down by this giant thing. They can't really see it well yet, but they see the spikes and everything. And so they start freaking out and they're trying to go. And that's when you get like the boat chase scene that you've seen the pictures of probably online and on the trailers and stuff. And this scene was just so fucking good.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so wild.
It's like a lot of people talking about too how it like, it hasn't been confirmed how they totally did the scene yet, but like it's like appears to be some sort of mix of CGI and actual practical effects when Godzilla is like when he's got the mine like in his mouth and like it makes like the clanging noise. And so I only highlight that because like the fact that you don't know if it's like a really well done practical effect or really well done CGI again in a movie with a budget of $15 million is really fucking impressive.
Yeah.
And then we get the first moment that like made me go, holy shit, that was fucking awesome was
when they explode the mine in his mouth.
Yeah, and it's like I was like, oh man, like it really did blow apart his face. And then it just heals and like, we've always seen that he's like I always assumed like whatever that scar tissue was like on his face was like was gonna be from like the atomic bombs going off. And it being from that scene, I was like, oh my god, I was like, that's so fucking cool.
Yeah. So he's got like a little scar, it's a little discolored, but like his face just basically half his cheek is like blown apart.
Yeah.
And he looks like the guy Gus Fring from Breaking Bad after he gets blown up by the wheelchair guy.
I do know that reference.
Yeah. So he looks like that, but his face just heals immediately, and but it's a little bit scarred up, and so he keeps coming. Godzilla keeps coming, and then like he attacks the larger boat shows up. I forget what it's called, but they're like shooting cannons at it and like long guns at it. And Godzilla just destroys the ship like real easy, and then kind of just forgets about the little boat and swims away.
Yep. He goes under the boat, fires his beam up, very Godzilla versus Kong like, rises up in the ocean, surrounded by smoldering boats, very Godzilla versus Kong like,
yep.
Swims away, very Godzilla versus Kong like. But I was like, holy shit, that was like. Could you imagine like how terrifying that would be to see this like cheek repair itself? Like he looked dead, like he was just floating on the water dead, and the cheek just like repairs, and he's like the fucking T-1000, and he's like back at it, let's go.
Yep.
And then now we kind of get our first full glimpses of Godzilla in action. He's a shorter Godzilla, but like he looks huge and fucking imposing.
So he's big enough. I'll say that.
Yeah.
What I've noticed that this movie did well was it really scaled well with like the shot. So you got to see like all of Godzilla. When you just see like his lower part, he still looks enormous, but you get to see like the full Godzilla shot in reference to like his surroundings. And you really get a sense of like his size there, which isn't as big as Legendary. It's like
not
half
even
as big.
close.
Yeah,
he's like a third of the size.
Yeah.
Or
he's like 50-ish
but
meters, and then like Legendary is like 120, whatever. It's half his size. Anywhere.
Yeah.
But it still looks awesome. It still looks intimidating. Like you're still scared of it.
And also like that shorter scale for Godzilla too, like always like connects him more to the humans. Like it's like he's not so big that he's like oblivious to them. Like being this height like means like he can see them, hear them, like really kind of connect with them. Yeah, and it's like it makes it so much more personal, especially when you have like a vengeful Godzilla like this in this movie. That shorter height makes it all feel like much more personal as opposed to like, something like Shin Godzilla or something like that, where he's like kind of more not like oblivious to what's around him, but certainly that connection is kind of severed a little bit.
And like I said, like even though he's shorter, he's still big enough. Like it's still fine
for sure. Yeah, I mean, buildings weren't super huge like in the 40s, so it works.
Exactly.
Like,
whereas nowadays, like I like him being 100 meters just because when he's in the cityscape, it just looks a lot like dominating.
And that was always kind of like the logic too for like gradually making Godzilla taller, is like the different timelines went on. It's just buildings got bigger, Godzilla should get bigger to be in scale to buildings. I get that. I like
But like I said, this is like it blends perfectly, and like Godzilla still looks enormous, and when he does his thing, like you get the scale of like the smoke in the background, like it's just such a great shot.
Yeah, and then I guess we can kind of jump ahead to like the Ginza attack.
Yeah, that's where I was getting at.
Like I feel like we saw like kind of like a lot of clips from this like in the trailers, but even still like seeing it all together as like one.
You didn't get the whole thing.
Scene. Yeah. It was like, maybe if I have like one little critique about like the CGI or it's like the way he kind of walks is like a little awkward. like a little. I feel like it should be like a little bit more fluid. Although I do feel like it was like a design choice to kind of have him walk the way he walks. It just felt like a little. It reminded me of like, almost like if you had like a wind up toy that kind of had these like legs that were just kind of like on like a big wheel, kind of like rotating walking.
It kind of works though, because the way he's walking, like the city streets aren't like built to support his weight, so they're like crumbling beneath him. So he's like hitting the ground and then immediately smashing down even further, and then it keeps on happening.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense why he's walking that way. It's just because the floor is like crumbling below him.
Yeah. It was just that was the only stuff that just like maybe like for a moment ago, like it was like, oh, it looks a little awkward, but it was like his full body kind of doing that walk cycle. But you know, ultimately, like, but then like it was so constant that I was like, okay, that's like a design choice. So,
yeah.
But oh man, the atomic breath scene that we get in the Ginza attack, that was like, you get this like huge charge up, giant mushroom cloud, the super depressing shot of everybody just standing there, just going like, well, we're dead. And as like that like nuclear cloud just comes and engulfs them all, we get Noriko throwing Koichi behind like a concrete building, so it saves him.
And then she gets blown away like Rodin style.
Yeah. But like when that happened, I was like, oh man. I was like, how much like bleaker can it get for this guy?
It gets really dark.
Yeah.
Like so he's a shamed kamikaze like failed pilot who's working like a very dangerous job, like clearing mines, and then they like use him as like bait for Godzilla, and then he gets caught up in the Godzilla attack trying to save this girl who he's never had like the heart to marry because like his like heart is still at war.
Yeah.
And then he basically sees her die in front of him to save him.
God. It's like
this is grim.
He's having
and
nightmares.
I've played Monopoly alone.
He's having like nightmares every night. Like he's not fully like, it's like he's trying to provide for this like de facto family that he has. Like they're not really a family. Like
he wants them to be. Like he wants it, but he just can't do it.
The
because,
mental
like,
blocks are there. The trauma's there. You know, he feels very distant like most of the time from them, and it's like, you know, like Akiko keeps calling him daddy and stuff like that. And he's like, I'm not your dad. I'm not your dad.
And everyone else around is like, dude,
yeah,
stop.
But it's like, you know, it's like, and there's like parts too where it's like where he's starting to have like kind of like these like flashbacks to like Odo Island and stuff. And it's like his, like the way like he hyperventilates and just kind of
like he doesn't know if he's dreaming in reality or if the dream is his reality.
Yeah. It's like, you know, like a lot of movies and TV shows try to show, you know, I'm not saying this is like some like super accurate portrayal of like trauma or something like that, but it's like it felt very believable.
Oh yeah, yeah. Definitely.
It like I like really felt like that guy was like on the verge of like having like a panic attack and was like really having.
No, he was like full on like having like a mental breakdown.
Yeah, and it's like it was done so well that I sit there going like I was like, oh wow, I was like this is like totally believable.
And this is why I'm saying like if you took Godzilla out of this movie, it's still an incredible movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not familiar with any of these actors or actresses, but it's like they all did like a fucking incredible job conveying like the weight of the situation. You know, like you know, Noriko's like she's going out to get her own job to you know, to not have to, you know, because I think she kind of sees that like, you know, this guy like we're probably not going to turn into like a real family, and you know it's you know, and you could just tell like she didn't ask for this kid. This kid was just like plopped on her, and it's like you can get the sense of like she's just, you know, a character with like a strong sense of like duty and determination, and you know, just wanting to do right by like this kid now that's like hers, and you know, it really comes through in the way she portrays the character, and then you know, but of course I should have figured when they said. When she goes, oh yeah, I got a job in Ginza. I was like, oh well, that's probably where Godzilla's gonna land. So, you know, and like 5 minutes later, they're like, oh yeah, Godzilla's landing in Ginza now. What else with the Ginza attack? Your favorite parts of the Ginza attack?
So my favorite was obviously the atomic breath. I thought that was
yeah.
fucking great. Visually, like when the smoke cloud goes up and you see Godzilla, like you've probably seen the a gif of it or a short video of it. Like that whole scene, it pans from like his legs down and goes up, and you see his full body, and then you see the enormity of the cloud behind him. It's just so it looks so good.
He stares at it and he roars at it too.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
And the one part I didn't like about the attack is how quickly he finds her. He finds
Koichi finds. Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
So she's on the train at first. Like, that gets the other train car thrown at it, and then Godzilla comes and bites the train car. So she's on like the next car down that's like ripped in half, and she's like hanging out of it. So she falls in water safely and like gets back into shore. But like as she's running from Godzilla, Koichi like just finds her right there. She's like down on the ground.
Yeah, that was a little plot convenient, but
yeah. Like maybe she's close to her work. I don't know, but it just seemed a little too circumstantial, I guess. I don't know. So that was the only thing I didn't like about it, but at the same time, it had to happen because you had to get that moment where she gets blown away.
Yeah. And so kind of like after the Ginza attack, you know, I was like, kind of saying in our group chat, and I was like really getting this vibe, like when we were watching it, I was like, oh, it almost kind of feels like a little bit more like Godzilla Raids Again than the original Godzilla movie, because like, you know, like Godzilla Raids Again is like, it's focused on all these kind of, you know, I think it's referenced that like a lot of them were, you know, kind of World War II veterans and stuff like that. And, like they're kind of working at the small factory. They're just like kind of like regular citizens at this point, just like trying to live with like, and like Godzilla's like kind of like this cloud that hangs over them.
Right. So they had like the Tokyo air raids, and then they had Godzilla's attack in Ginzo.
Yeah.
And they're a little bit tired of like them being the first line of defense. Like, why us, basically?
Yeah, and in this, and it's like they kind of gave me like the vibes like them trying to go about like their everyday lives, like they do in Raids Again. And I think also like, you know, Koichi being a pilot, Godzilla Raids Again kind of centered around like pilots who were like looking for like tuna and stuff like that. Also kind of giving that vibe too, but it's also, again, it's like kind of private citizens coming together to hatch a plan. Or, you know, in this movie they kind of more hatch a plan. Raids Again, they kind of like assist with the plan. But you know, that was the part where I was like, oh, is the government like really like doing, like there's no reference to like what the government is doing about Godzilla. And it seems like the only plan is entirely what like this private group of citizens, although I think Doc, as they were saying, like I think he's tied to the government, but it's like a little like dubious. And then I was kind of thinking, it was like, oh, this is probably, you know, this being post World War II, you know, Japan basically was not basically allowed to have any sort of real military activities. And so I wonder if that would like, maybe that was like a reference that was kind of maybe lost on me, where I was like, oh, maybe it's like the private citizens are doing it because, you know, such coming off the heels of World War II, Japan basically couldn't really take any like military action. So, and then we've already established that the US and Russia are like basically into the Cold War at this point, or the beginnings of the Cold War at this point. So neither of them are going to do anything about it. And hence we get this plan hatched by, you know, basically a combination of different private citizens and entities.
Basically Doc comes up with the plan, and then like there's this company that's like, we're going to supply you with everything you need to get this done.
Yeah. Kind of a wild plan when you think about it. Like, oh, we need to sink Godzilla to a trench in a very specific area. We're going to kind of freeze. Well, at first when they talked about like freezing, I was like, we're just going to get the ending to Shin Godzilla again. But it's like, we gotta sink them in a trench at a specific point, and then when that doesn't work, we'll fire all these inflatable rafts, and we'll bring them back up. And I was like, oh man, I was like gonna give them all that pressure, then depressurize them instantly. I was like, that could be a really fucking gruesome fatality.
Yeah, I was thinking like Godzilla's like getting pressurized, and he's like growing, expanding, and like or getting like crushed as he's like going down. Yeah. And then as he's coming back up, he's like expanding, and he just like pops like
I was like, my head was going, I was like, oh my god. I was like, what is this gonna look like if this happens? You know, they're like, you know, I think the boats were maybe a little bit more maneuverable than I probably would believe when they're trying to wrap them in those things. But it was like one of those things I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna kind of like shut my brain off of this and just kind of roll with it. So
the boats do kind of like make contact with each other as they're swimming around. So you get like a brief like little like tension scene, but nothing really. But what happens is like Godzilla comes back on shore, and so Koichi hatches a plan to fly a plane and like get him pissed and like fly him out, like basically lure Godzilla out to sea so they can do this boat thing. And so they find like they don't all have weapons like you said. So they find this like plane that's been hidden that they were developing during the war, and they need an engineer to bring it back to like flyability. And so Koichi hatches a plan to find the engineer from Odo Island, and he does it in like the funniest, like you barely notice it, but it's the funniest thing. Like, oh man, this was so great. So he sends all these letters out to this engineer who he's having trouble finding and locating, and rather than being like he basically just says like, Odo Island was your fault, pal. Like he absolves himself from all blame. So the engineer comes and finds him immediately and just beats the bag out of him.
Yeah. Did he hit him with like a pipe in the back?
He
of
hit
the
him with
head
the pipe in the
to
back of the head to knock
things?
him out.
Yeah.
And then like he brings him to this like abandoned place and just beats him up. It's so good.
And he's like, I had to piss you off because that's the only way I could get you to come. And I was like, well, I guess you weren't wrong, pal.
Yeah.
And like by this point, like Koichi's kind of starting to like, he's decided that like basically he's gonna like kind of sacrifice himself for this plan, but like people are kind of, especially now with Noiko being, what we believe at that time to be dead, like everyone's kind of starting to be like, no, like you got to like live for this kid, and you can see this like conflict in him, but he's still kind of very dedicated to this like plan of trying to by giving his life, he thinks he's going to kind of make things right. And so
there's a lot of conflict inside of him for this.
Yeah,
like you don't agree with what he's doing, but you see why he's doing it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And and when he's going over the plane like the night before the plan with like Takebana, they're talking about, okay, we put the bomb in here, here's like the lever where you arm the bomb, but then Koichi then kind of gets into like, he kind of gives like, the speech about like, or this not a speech, but he kind of opens his feelings up to like Takebana and about like the regret and all like the guilt that he's been carrying. And then after that, like we kind of get Takebana going like, and one more thing, which is like obviously him talking about the ejector seat. And I still want to believe in my head that like he was not going to tell him about the ejector lever until he was satisfied that he thought Koichi had suffered enough. That was like my read of, or my interpretation of how that went. I thought
the ejection lever was going to be the thing that he tells him to secure the bomb.
That's what I thought at first. I thought that at first.
Like that's how I took it in. Like he's telling him this is like before your impact, hit this and that'll secure the bomb. Yeah. Like thinking that he's going to do it, and then like, but it's really going to save him. Like I thought it was going to be like a stealthy, like you don't have to die for this, pal. Yeah, but then like I think it works better thinking that like, or for me, it like, where it like that wasn't the case, and he was just like, okay, now that you've told me all that, here's like one more thing, here's like this lever. I was like, I do wonder if like he like if he was really or maybe he was always going to tell him, but like I got the sense that he was probably conflicted about telling him, because you can tell he still harbored a lot of like resentment towards Koichi. And I thought, basically what I'm getting at, all their interactions were just so well done. There's so many different layers here and so many different ways we can kind of interpret what they were saying. And but anyway, back to the plan in action. So even just to add to that too, Koichi gives like his neighbor who's been like looking after the kid, like money, and like just said like, like look after, like here's a bunch of money to help. Yeah. Thinking that he's going to die. And so then they go to the plan. And you get this awesome scene of Godzilla in the countryside, just like stomping houses. Like, like
he finds the one house and steps on it.
Right. Like, there's not a lot in the area, but like he's just like wreaking havoc anyway. And I just thought this was like probably something that's going to go over a lot of people's heads. But I was like, this is such a good scene, like to really show what Godzilla is in this movie.
Yeah.
Like he fucking hates you, and he wants you to know it. But also you get to see Godzilla, in like a good scale with like houses and everything, and you can see like how huge he really has become, and it's really good. Like Koichi's flying the plane like right by his face, and he's like trying to chomp him. I was just like, man, this is so action packed and like so good and so well done, and like the scale and everything is perfect in this scene.
Yeah, this is you actually kind of touched on something that I kind of wanted to get into a little bit too, and it was like, Well, first, yeah, this is like a very like aggressive, animalistic Godzilla where he's
Yeah.
like, snapping with his jaws. He's swings his tail like way more than most other versions of Godzilla do, especially like in solo Godzilla movies. But like, yeah, like, I think a lot of people are saying like, this is like the very evil Godzilla and stuff like that. Like,
He's not really evil.
I think he's vengeful. I think
Yeah.
he's had his island has been, the war has come to his island, his home, and then like, then he is become this like mutated monstrosity from like the atomic bomb testing. And it's like, and I think,
I think
he's lashing out.
Yeah, he's behaving like a wild animal, who's sort of like out of his element, and rather than like fight or flight, he's choosing fight.
Yeah. Why wouldn't he see humanity as like nothing but, his enemy?
So I don't think Godzilla's evil, really. He's a dick, and like he wants you to know it.
Yeah.
But he's like our dick,
Yeah. It's all, as they say in Star Wars, it's all from a certain point of view.
From a certain point of view.
And from Godzilla's point of view, he has had his land, basically ravaged by war, and then he himself has been nuked.
Yeah.
So, and in the MonsterVerse, guess it didn't bother that Godzilla too much. And this, he's pretty pissed.
And so then like Koichi lures him out to sea. The plan's going well, and Godzilla sort of finds the boats out there, and he does his atomic breath to one of them, and they see what could happen to them.
The decoy one,
yeah. And they all kind of collectively shit their pants.
Yeah.
But the plan is in motion. You get this really great shot. I'll get to that later, actually. So they get wrapped around Godzilla and everything, and Koichi's distracted them to like keep him in place, basically. So they sink him, and Godzilla doesn't die. And so they inflate the stuff and use the Freon gas and he starts to be a little frozen, but like halfway up it stops. And so there's this other character from this kid who like broke his arm on the boat attack early in the movie.
Yeah.
And like they're telling him, like, all the grown-ups are like, he missed out on the war. He was too young. He was gonna train to be a kamikaze pilot, but he was like a year too young or something. And so they're telling him like he can't come out for this plan, and he's like pissed at them because he like desperately wants to show that he's not a coward and like he's brave too. But they're not gonna let him. And so he just gets everyone who kind of like poo-pooed on the plan to come together and get boats. And so more boats come out to sort of help the two remaining boats that are like wrapped around Godzilla. And Godzilla's sort of like tugging on them. So it's a big tug of war game going on. They finally bring Godzilla back up, and he's like half frozen, half not. And you get this awesome shot of Godzilla like right about to blow his atomic breath. It just like looks so scary. It's awesome.
The sound totally goes out.
Yeah.
We are about to get a recreation of the ending of Godzilla Planet Eater, where
Yeah.
Haru's but with a little bit more better results.
Yeah.
I'll say really quick, like, we were kind of talking about this in our group chat, like offline, like, kamikaze pilots were not known to be
Good pilots.
the best pilots.
Yeah,
And
they weren't trained all that much.
And here's Koichi in this, like, I think I described it as like the Naboo starfighter from the Star Wars prequels. And like I was like, yeah, this thing is like maybe a little bit way too maneuverable for 1947, especially something that was like rotting in a barn. But again, that's like stuff that it's like I'm kind of shutting my brain off of that and just kind of like, I was more entertained by it being that way than it being more realistic.
Yeah.
So, so that's not a critique. It's just, I'm just kind of having like a little bit of fun with it.
Yeah.
But like, our former, or not former, but past podcast guest, whose nickname I always forget what he goes by, Spacebones Jackson. Somebody goes by in the podcast, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Loves Anguirus.
Yeah, it's for you, pal. He probably the only person I know besides me who's like that big of an Anguirus fan. Probably the only person.
I think he's got you beat out.
Maybe we'll have to have an Anguirus off one day. We'll have
Spacebones Jackson loves Anguirus.
We'll have trivia games. I'm sure when he hears this, we will know when he hears this, I think, in our group chat. But like, you know, like, but he pointed out too, like, you know, when all the audio drops out and like it's just silence as like that plane goes in, they do a really good job of hiding the ejector spot.
Yeah, you don't see it. Yeah.
And he just like hits Godzilla right in the mouth, and it's just again just dead silence, and it's so well done.
But like the way Godzilla's face looks as his mouth is blue and like he's coming up from the water and he's like half frozen, like it just looks so great.
I think he had like bones sticking through in parts too and stuff. Yeah, it was like really like.
And so Koichi flies the plane into his face again. There are bombs on the plane, so they blow up, and it works. And Godzilla, basically, his head is blown apart, and then his body starts to disintegrate and sink to the sea below them. So humanity was able to defeat Godzilla here.
They won the battle.
And was this like Godzilla 98 where they beat him with a couple cruise missiles? No, this was actually pretty creative and like a sight to behold.
Yeah, and you know, but then you know, in true GMK style, that heart is just beating.
That was so good.
Yeah, because
and it was like evolving to.
Yeah, this Godzilla is not gonna be stopped, and I think you know. That was very, very GMK-esque. Even the way he like
absolutely.
It was almost like
they played the same song.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We didn't even really touch on that. There was a lot of like classic themes used throughout the movie.
You pointed out there was Godzilla versus King Kong in there.
Yeah.
Which I would not have gotten.
They used they used like the arrangement that like so at the end of Godzilla versus Destroyer, there's kind of like a medley that incorporates the King Kong versus Godzilla theme and the Marsh Godzilla theme and stuff like that. And they basically use, I think, almost that exact arrangement. It might have been a little bit different, but you know, there was other classic themes like just kind of throughout the movie, all clearly reorchestrated, re-recorded, sounded fucking incredible in IMAX.
Oh yeah.
Those are the other two, like all the explosions and shit, like they were like booming in IMAX.
Oh, it sounded like you were in the action. Like,
yeah, like,
the Ginto scene, like you felt like you were there.
Oh my god, like all the mines blowing up and the cannons going off in the ocean scenes. It was like, those were like pounding, and then like all the attack on Ginza stuff, all like the atomic breath scene in Ginza, and throwing the trains around. It was like it was so well recorded and done. And then but anyway, so speaking of Godzilla Destroyer, like the way he kind of like melts away was kind of Destroyer-esque, like, but also with like kind of like the beams coming out with a GMK style.
Yep, I noticed that.
So a lot of I feel like there was a lot of callbacks to not a lot, but there was enough callbacks. I kind of feel like to other movies here. That was done. Yeah, that was like well done. You know, they were like little like winks and nods. You know, it kind of felt like certainly like obviously a lot of like 1954 imagery. Like when he attacks the train in Ginza is very similar to like when he attacks the train in 54. You know, I thought some like the way he rises up, like a lot of stuff kind of like I thought kind of like invoked imagery of the 1954 movie. I thought the people dynamic was a much better version of like Godzilla Raids Again. You know, the Godzillasaurus is just kind of like the Godzillasaurus and Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, and you know, then the GMK ending.
Yeah, so it does kind of take a lot of beats from other movies and sort of reuse them, but it's not like a uncreative way.
No. It's if you're gonna do it, they were really well. They were really well done. So,
so Godzilla is defeated, but we know you will see him again soon, as soon as he is able to collect himself. But speaking of returning, as the neighbor is like worried about Koiko, she gets a telegram.
Akiko. Yeah.
The neighbor gets a telegram like for the neighbor apparently, and so she looks at it. And she's like, "Oh, I'm drawing a blank on her name now. Noriko is alive in a hospital." So, after dude comes back, like, they see him out as like the boat lands and everyone's safe and everyone's the hero and stuff. he finds out that she's alive, and like he's like crying in the hospital room, and he hugs her, but she has like something on her neck that looks real weird.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh shit. So
Yeah.
there's something going on with her where her war is just beginning now.
Yeah, at first I don't ever love like fake out. Well, sometimes fake out deaths are fine.
You loved it in Rise of Skywalker. which is what I said at the as it happened in the theaters.
Rise of Skywalker. There's not many movies that like while I'm watching them I go like, oh my god, this is really bad, because usually I'm kind of like in the moment and I'm finding the positives. But Rise of Skywalker was like, I remember I turned to like one of the people that I was with and I said, holy shit, this is really bad. And it was like I don't even think we even got to the somehow Palpatine returned part yet, like when I said that. And I just remember going, oh god, this movie's horrendous. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, I don't usually like love like the fake out deaths, but because it had like that element of like, okay, there's something else here.
Yeah.
That it made it totally fine for me. But also I kind of think of it too, and I was like, these people have suffered enough. Like, I'm okay. Like, even if she just is totally healthy with maybe like a weird mark on her or something like that, I feel like that's probably not the case. She probably has some terrible radiation sickness, which will make this even more depressing when the story is continued. But also I was like, well, you know what? I was like, they have been through so much. Like, yes, let's have that like happy ending. Although, yeah, the shadow was kind of cast over it with whatever's going on in her neck.
Yeah.
So I do kind of wonder where. I mean,
there's like almost like a Biolante aspect to it
because of the mark.
Yeah, because like she's like she's got the G cells in her now.
Okay. Yeah. So like, you know, the ending is well done in a way where it's like it's open to kind of like you could do all sorts of things now. You could have Godzilla spend the next 40 years regenerating, and it's now the 80s or 50 years or whatever time period you want to get to.
Oh, give me a nice 25-year span, so we get like a nice 1973 sort of drop. With this.
I would like to see this. I would like to see Akiko kind of like be like, you know, like in her 20s or something like that, and like Godzilla returns, and like, you know, she kind of carries like the story, you know, because now we have the story, like, you know, I just think that'd be cool to kind of have like a through line with -1, you know, her being like, you know, a baby in this movie, then becoming like a young adult. That's like the most obvious through line to have, because everyone else is going to be too old by that point. Or you could just really time skip to like, I don't know, like the 2000s or something if you really wanted to. Like, I mean, giving yourself that regeneration out is, or not out, but like kind of giving you that sort of, out, I guess. Like, it just gives you so much creative freedom to
That's what I mean. Like, you don't know what, like, I'm just spitballing with like the Biolante like thing. There's something there, but like it could not be that. She could just be like forever young and like
that
the
would
dude in, fucking Monarch.
Like Shaw.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeans.
There could be, there's any amount of avenues you could go down now with this. Like, it doesn't have to just be one thing. It could be something you haven't even thought of. So all we could do is just like sort of like fantasy book it at this point, and it's just gonna be fun.
Or it could just be like, you know, there is, and I'm not like an expert on this by any means, but like I do know that like, you know, people who survived the atomic bombings, and like they had like the radiation scars on them and stuff like that, like they faced like a lot of discrimination in the years after that. Like, maybe this is going to be like that form of like these radiation burns, like, which again gets to that it's like, oh my god, it's just constantly depressing, it's just constantly grim.
Or maybe like she doesn't have the radiation scars because the Godzilla stuff is like regenerating for her, so it
could infect the now that we're kind of talking through, I was like, oh man, it's kind of like an ambiguous ending, like Shin Godzilla.
That's what I mean. That's
like,
what's so good about
two
this.
movies that have like these like really like, but unlike Shin Godzilla, I think is perfectly great being like a self-contained story, and like whatever that weird ending was with the tail, I like it never being solved or never really being extended.
And like you got to think like, well, maybe some fell off and survived, and they're like living, and like they form into like another not Godzilla monster, but something even worse.
Yeah.
And, like they have to like get a new Godzilla to beat him or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
like there was just all that fantasy booking stuff. And that's what I feel like you can do with this too. Is just
Yeah.
like there's no end to the possibilities of where they could go from here.
But what I'm saying with Shin Godzilla, I'm totally fine.
Yeah.
It standing like that. This I want to know. I want to know what happens next because
I
again,
want to know what love is.
again, it's such a well done story that I go, I like, and not. I mean, Shin Godzilla I think is fucking fantastic. But
Yeah.
I think it's like,
Yeah.
I think it's like Shin Godzilla is like, I think is better existing as its own one standalone thing. This is like the world of Godzilla, which oh my god, I didn't even mean to do that, but that's like what they're calling, like, or were calling, like their Toho was calling, like their kind of restarted franchise. So
Okay.
that was not meant to be a play on that, but anyway, it's like, but this is like, this is like, you know, this Godzilla is built to be like the definitive Godzilla for Toho going forward, right?
And
Like,
it looks great. They used it great in this movie. Like, very happy with that.
yeah, this feels like a launching point story.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't do that heartbeat ending if this was not meant to be like a launch pad.
Yeah.
You know, you would either just leave that out or you would have a more definitive end to Godzilla. But doing that is like, nope, the door's open. This is our starting point. You know,
maybe
we can,
GMK will be a part of this timeline.
I mean, there's like, well, other than if you just shift every time they say 1954 to 1947, like you could probably just kind of make it work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have said a lot. Do we have more to say? Do I have more to say? Look at my
We
notes.
did mention the music. Special effects were top notch.
Yep.
Acting's top notch. I have nothing more to add.
Yeah. I mean,
We've gushed over this.
we've
enough.
talked about this Godzilla design, you know, in the past. I think this is an excellent Godzilla design. I think, you know, yeah, this is a good Godzilla for your future.
Absolutely.
In that design. Shin Godzilla was like a little too wild to kind of, I think, be your Godzilla for the rest of, or for the foreseeable future. This is a much more, this can be your mascot on everything. So,
Yeah.
well, I guess we're both probably giving it 5 stars, huh?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Do you have like a knee-jerk reaction as to, you know, is this like an instant top 3, top 5, top 7?
I don't know exactly where it is. I'm kind of like thinking top 5 might even be better than Shin Godzilla because, like, you know how Godzilla movies are with that third act, but going into it, you had like the fake out death, so you think the girl's dead, and then you have like the plan where people aren't really into it. I thought that this was much better than Shin Godzilla is, where it just felt kind of a little sterile.
The pacing felt a little, yeah.
But that being said, like this is a must see, 5 stars. Like I can't say enough good things about this movie.
Yeah, I'm sure this will probably fall somewhere in like my top 7 or 8 once I see it a little bit more times. I try to like, you know, try not to have too much recency bias, but I mean, I think regardless, I think you just tell this is going to go down as like one of the most important Godzilla that has ever been made. Really,
Yeah.
you know,
Totally.
And when I say like, oh, like whether it's gonna be my top 7, top 10, it's because like I have so much nostalgia for a lot of those movies that are in like my top 7, 8, 9, whatever. Like, I mean, come on, like Godzilla versus Gigan's like one of my top movies. Obviously, this is better than Godzilla versus Gigan or Godzilla versus Hedorah. But you know, that's a little bit more personal. But to me, I think in the grand scheme of things, this is gonna go down. You know, one of the most important Godzillas that has ever come out.
Yeah. And it's tough to say what's better, you know, the WrestleMania 10 ladder match or Savage Steamboat. You know what I mean? But like they could both just.
Oh,
be
I thought
awesome.
you were going to say the SummerSlam rematch that they had.
Oh no, I just meant like in WrestleMania matches. Like it's tough to say like what's better than what. Like both could just be great on their own.
Yeah. And you know, I think I don't really think we need to like. I guess it's going to get the inevitable comparisons to Shin Godzilla, but I didn't think they both
they're so different. In like every way.
They're both so fantastic, both so different.
Yeah.
Very good.
All
right, on to Monarch. So,
yes, Monarch, the Hands of Fate.
That's a good reference that I get. Yeah, this will probably be a little bit shorter because we just talked about -1 quite a bit. We still have purchases and figures to discuss, and also kind of showing my hand a little bit. Not, I think, the most to discuss in these 2 episodes for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. For me, these episodes weren't as sort of like, oh crap, this is great, like stuff, as episodes 1 and 2 were. It's obviously a continuation of 1 and 2, but like episode 3 is okay, but because you get like a great Godzilla scene and you get like both timelines doing cool stuff.
Yes.
Episode 4, you just get the current or the 2010s timeline. And for me, I was just like, at a certain point in the episode, they call it like, what's the word that they use?
Which part were you?
When they're in the art gallery, it's pretentious.
Oh, yeah.
And this felt like a pretentious episode, and it was being self-aware.
Yeah. So episode 3 is titled Secrets and Lies. Episode 4 is called Parallels and Interiors, which is a pretentious title unto itself.
It is.
This is
It's like a magazine cover.
So episode 3, I thought that was a really good episode. I thought, we're full on in Kurt Russell land. We get like their journey to Alaska. Kurt Russell has a Shaw. I'll stop calling him Kurt Russell. Shaw has he's got his friend in Korea that he helps them sneak to Alaska, sneak on a plane. But yeah, I think the highlight of the episode is the Godzilla, atomic bomb scene back in the 50s. That was we got the Swede every time. It's always good to see the Swede.
I when we were watching this, we both kind of watched it like same-ish time, and when I got there, I was like, "Oh, you idiot!" And I was like, "You'll know."
Yeah, always good to see the Swede. Our favorite Hell on Wheels character. What I did really like, talking about Godzilla designs, I like that Godzilla's actually pretty young looking in the flashback.
Yeah,
he's like leaner, a little bit leaner, a little bit shorter. His face looks a lot younger, and then none of that really matters because as the internet has memed to death already, he comes face to face with that bomb that just blows up in his face. That was pretty good. I liked all that.
I'm forgetting the woman doctor's character's name. She's like having like a fit and trying to stop it as that's going on.
Oh yeah.
And Shaw is like preventing her from like shutting the whole thing down. So they think after the bomb goes off, they've killed Godzilla, but no. He's still there, so he's nothing to get a twist about. He's fine.
Yeah.
Well, he likes it.
We know. She doesn't know.
Yeah, exactly. This is all new to them. But so they basically think they're getting uranium to like lure Godzilla out of hiding. But the government shows up and they're like, "We have that bomb you ordered." They're like, "We didn't order a bomb. We ordered uranium." And just like, I think you kind of ordered a bomb.
And he's like, "Well, if it exists, we got to kill it."
Yeah,
so,
I thought this was an existential threat to all of humanity.
But, other than that, though, I kind of feel like, well, the rest of the episode was okay. We get more of, oh my God, what's the guy's name? The other son. Kentaro. And
Kentaro
Kate
wins.
Kentaro and Kate kind of, they're now kind of starting to bond a little bit. They kind of talk about like things like that their father did, and that was nice. And Kurt Russell's like kind of crazy, but like he's not full on crazy, but he's like, he's just very much like, he's kind of running like basically like a military operation or whatever.
Yeah.
So I thought episode 3 was good for all that. Episode 4 is just like filler. We got...
That's what I mean. Like, you don't get the flashbacks to the 50s or anything like that.
You get the flashbacks of May and Kentaro dating.
That's what I wanted to talk about. So you get the flashbacks to their sort of meetings, and it really didn't drive the plot at all. It just sort of served as exposition and background on how they met and like where their characters have evolved from, which if you're in a conflict and he's like walking away from your group to like, cause he saw something and he thinks he's right. Like you don't need to see like how they were like before. You already know that they were tighter before than they are now.
Right. Right.
Like, so really, like, it served no purpose other than to make me not like Kentaro because he's like a pretentious artist.
Yeah. And I think it was like a lot of build just to establish like that, he feels like he's not living up to like what his father expects of him, which I don't know why you would want to live up to that guy's expectations. This guy who had 2 secret families on you, and
A lot of competition.
yeah. And it's like, like he's like not at like his own art show because like, he didn't want to let down his father. But again, I kind of go in retrospect, like, the guy's not around a lot because he's got a whole nother family on the other side of the world.
Yep.
Maybe you got to start working on telling yourself that you don't need to vie for that attention or for that approval. Like, yeah, fine, he's still your dad. But at the same time, too, let's maybe go, maybe I should be tempering my expectations a little bit here of what I want out of this guy. But yeah, I didn't, we got no flashbacks, and I think excuse me, I think some of the people like in some of the stuff going on in the 50s and stuff like that is like generally I think has kind of been a little bit more better done as the series has gone on.
I'm more interested in like the story of the 50s than the story of the present day.
Yeah.
But I feel like some of the characters in the present day are really well done. Like Kate's really cool. I like her. Kurt Russell's character is just very fun to be around.
It's just kind of hitting this weird story beat where it's like all they're kind of doing is like going to place that like Kate and Kentaro's father has like just conveniently been. Like, it feels like Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, where it's like, oh, you just missed Carmen.
At the same time, too, it was very cool to have Kurt Russell up in like the Alaskan wilderness again.
Yeah.
there should have been a dog running in the background just barking.
I will say about the Alaska stuff, though, I think the official name for that Titan is Frostbark. I just like calling him Icy McFreeze.
Chili McFreeze.
Yeah.
Ice Dagger.
Like that Titan, I think that Titan's the fucking coolest. I love that fucking Titan.
So I really like how you have like the Hollow Earth opening right near like where the campment was.
Yeah.
And you don't see it they don't realize what it is until Kurt Russell sees it at the very end of the episode. Yeah, that Titan is really cool because it looks like almost like the Demogorgon's head when he's like is like just looking normal, but when he opens up like the things and so like the tentacles are like pointing out, it looks like something straight out of like Elden Ring with like the hands that are in that game like on his face, and then the rest of the body is like Vort.
Just like that freezing power, like when he kills like Shaw's friend and stuff like that. I was like, oh damn, that was pretty sick.
Yeah. And he basically what it is like he's feeds on heat somehow, and he like sucks the heat out of things, so like fire like summons him. Yeah.
Which like I was like, oh man, is Kurt Russell like really gonna succeed in killing this thing? And no, he doesn't really. Kind of summons it, and it's like all that stuff. The last like 5 minutes of the 4th episode was really fun.
Yeah, the rest of it.
Cool shots of like Chili McFreeze like coming out of the ground and like sucking down the plant, or like when they have the fire going in the tent because May fell in the water and she's got hypothermia. Not meaning to laugh at her misfortune, but I mean when you're coming off of -1 and now you're watching like Monarch, it's such like a tonal shift.
Yeah.
So
like the first 2 episodes I feel like were better than these 2. Even though 3 was a lot better than 4,
3 was
in my
good,
opinion.
yeah.
4 just kind of, we're lumping them together, so 4 kind of brings it down, just in my opinion.
It feels like these episodes kind of going in pairs. Like this was like the the Alaska arc, right? Because like at the end, but again, to its credit, I'm intrigued to like where it's going to go next episode. Because at the end, like after like they all get rescued from Alaska, that no good son of a bitch Tim is right there at the airfield to go up to. Honor to meet you, Mr. Shaw. And you're like, all right, so like now we're kind of back deep into like the conspiracy type stuff and the more shadowy aspects of Monarch. Little weird. They had like not weird, but it was like they had like the Monarch like Teams call like halfway through the 4th episode, and he's like, "I'm Tim. I'm like the troll you avoid in the basement." And I was like, "Oh man, this guy is just creep vibes from like top to bottom."
Yeah.
So 4th episode, would have liked it better if it was like maybe 20 minutes,
Yeah, I just feel like they're doing the Walking Dead thing where like you're not paying attention to like the storyline that you left off on, like, and you're just sort of leaving the 50s
Yeah.
to like simmer for a couple weeks. I don't think that's a good thing. I think you need to sort of keep the momentum going there. Avoid just leaving a story in the dust because the fans could forget, be like, oh yeah, I forgot all about this thing, and then Glenn head under the dumpster, and then you don't care about the show anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna hope that episode 4 was just a bit of a misstep.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, we haven't gotten a continuation of the Ion Dragon stuff.
exactly. That's what I mean. Like, so like that's still left. You have like the ending where she falls into the pit with the bugs.
Too, yeah.
That's still left unattended to and unexplained. Like, there's so much that like I feel like they're ignoring, and instead we got like Kitaro and May
Yeah.
at a bar.
Yeah, so we
Fuck
got
off.
we got three different time periods in the 50s now that are at like kind of like cliffhanger endings. We got like the Godzilla bomb ending, the Iron Dragon ending, and from the first episode when like she falls, like you just were saying. So that's three cliffhangers that we currently have going in the 50s, mixed with the story that's like moving. It's like too many time jumps.
Yeah.
Now I think they got to kind of. I mean, they got to start. I think moving the 50s more to a little bit more of like one singular story. That's kind of.
And I feel like that's what they're probably going to do in the next episode, just because we got to sort of like a, I don't want to say a climax, but sort of like a chapter ending where Tim is outside the helicopter. You know what I mean? So now you have the time to go back into the 50s and explore the things that you sort of left.
Yeah.
And then you can let that simmer for a week and then come back and then do the time hopping where you have the two consistent timelines again. I think that's the best strategy.
Yeah. Supposedly the rumors are that episode 6 is supposed to be like a real doozy of an episode. So, maybe there's a lot of build. I mean, yeah, whatever. We'll see. I think the show's still really, really good. Just 4 was just kind of a misstep of an episode. Just a lot of padding, like a lot of all that flashback stuff. Like, I like all the characters, but I don't like really care too much about like spending so much time with like them getting to know each other in the past. Like,
that's what I mean. Like, if this were a movie, that would have been cut.
Yeah. Like, or you could have really abridged it. Like you didn't need to spend all that time.
Yeah.
So, if I were giving these like stars, I guess I would give like episode 3 would probably like a 3-star, something like that. And episode 4 probably like a 2. Wasn't bad enough to be a 1, but certainly just kind of felt like a.
I think just for the Godzilla scene you got in 3, I'm going to give that a 4.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, actually.
And then 2 for the episode 4. There was good stuff in episode 4 that I did like. But like overall, I just feel like it was kind of ruined by the flashbacks to May and Kitaro in Japan, and it just didn't really move anything forward for me.
Yeah,
and like episode 4, you also had like the human conflict, like that was just sort of like temporary. Like Kitaro doesn't want to go with them towards the light; he wants to go to what he thinks he saw. And so, like, they just let him go. And, like, I just don't like when that stuff happens.
Yeah. On one hand, I did kind of like when Shaw's like, okay, yeah, you go. We'll go this way. Whoever finds help first, come back for the others. Because I was like, oh, okay, well, don't, like, convince each other to, like, try to stay. He's just like, I don't give a shit. You just leave. I don't care.
Yeah.
I like Shaw. The Shaw character is good because he's, like, borderline crazy. And he's, like, talking to himself. And he's, like, pouring the gasoline out. And he's like, oh, I can't remember what his friend's name was, but he's like, oh, he always wanted to go up in a ball of flame. He's always getting one over on me. And I was like, all right, Kurt Russell is like a little nuts, and I kind of like it. So, but yeah, I agree. It's a little contrived how that was handled.
Yeah. So hopefully episode 5 and, as you mentioned, 6 will be funner.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
Cool.
Figs, you get them?
I got a few.
Cool.
Got a few. It's a little bit of a shorter list, but I guess for what it has been as of late, but it's still 3 items.
I didn't get anything, but I just got a new job, so start that in a few weeks. So
Yep.
Soon.
Yep.
So let me get through Christmas, and then I'll be back on board.
Yeah, new year, new you.
Yeah.
So I want
to the new year.
I want to start off with a little bit of a
Mothers and daughters, right?
What's that reference? I don't get that one either.
It's the new you. You have to watch Tim and Eric.
Dance like nobody's watching. All right, a little bit of a unique purchase that I want to start with is that I got a a bully frog, I believe it was listed, from an Etsy shop that was that's called Kamen Rider Silver. Let me get that right. Yep, Kamen Rider Silver, because I want to make sure I give a shout out to this Etsy shop owner. It's a 3D printed Gabra bully frog, and it's articulated, really cool. I checked earlier. There's more of these figures that are for sale, along with, I'm going to stop being coy about it. There's also a Godzilla from Godzilla's Revenge, a Manila, a baby Gamera from the end of Gamera, the anime. Rebirth. No, yeah, Rebirth? Rebirth, yeah. And I just saw there was like a Baby Zilla, like Christmas style ornament toy, and like there's a few other things. Like, just want to give a shout because like this was cool to grab. It comes unpainted. I am terrible at painting, but I still painted this anyway. But I have a cool little articulated, highly detailed Gabra figure now.
Nice.
Seems like they are putting up. They are redoing their inventory. Frequently, because it seems like they go quick, but it seems like things come back in stock quick. I also appreciate that you threw in a little 3D printed little Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. That was a nice little bonus gift. So I wanted to lead with that and kind of shout that out because I really like stuff like this. And yeah, you should check it out too. You should buy some. Artists should support artists. I'm going to use the term artist loosely for what we are as podcasters, but
I'm so old that I was around when they called it arts and farts and crafts.
You popped me a few times this episode. I got the silver screen Godzilla 57 reaction figure from those blind boxes. It's very similar to like the original figure that was released, but just with a much better paint job.
Okay.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
The Shadow Mechagodzilla still eludes me, but
One day.
I mean, I got the medic jet.
Time will come.
I got the medic jet Jaguar. That's all I really wanted.
So do I. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Yep. That's what happens. That's the benefit of blind boxes. Sometimes people are going to get my doubles. But I think my main event purchase came the same Wednesday night when I came home from Godzilla -1. Sitting on my doorstep was a DHL delivery box with Godzilla Store tape across it, the Bandai Movie Monster Series, my second favorite kaiju, and probably Spacebone Jackson's actual favorite kaiju, Anguirus 55, arrived. It is a fucking fantastic figure.
It looks very good.
It really does. A friend of the pod, Shin Rob Jira, said that like, it basically looks like they scanned an X Plus figure and shrunk it down. And that's really what it looks like. It's super detailed. The painting is well done. I mean, there's only like a handful of paint on it, but
yeah. Just like the spikes, right?
The spikes, the mouth.
Okay, yeah.
So, but I mean, like, that Anguirus was primarily gray. So, super detailed. It's like in the Bandai Movie Monster Series scale, but like fairly big, like long articulated tail. Almost in the running as I'm starting to do my own mental figure of the year conversation. I don't think this one is going to top the other ones, but but it is
honorable mention.
I would call it an honorable mention. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a excellent figure. Love that we finally got like a proper 1955 Anguirus figure. I also ordered the Godzilla Store exclusive one that's like kind of like a fiery color scheme, but that's not coming out for a few months.
Okay.
So hopefully Baggin ships soon. Baggin is supposed to ship anytime now from the US Godzilla Store. It's already shipped, I think, from like Hobbylink Japan and stuff like that. So
that's like the white one, right?
Baggin?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the horned one from
Yeah.
like Super Godzilla,
Yeah.
the game. Yeah,
I just mean like the figure is like the more white one.
yeah. I guess he's primarily whitish, grayish. Yeah.
I've seen that. The Anguirus looks really cool though. Like,
Yeah.
very well done.
Love it.
Good stuff. I know Mezco kind of gypped you on the last Anguirus.
Yeah, well, yours was fine. Well, you kind of had the same thing too, where like your secondary head was like a little warped in places, right?
Yeah, that's the mouth open head that you don't have on yours. 'cause,
Right.
So, but like my other head is fine. I think the tips of the paint might not be great, but other than that, it's
Yeah,
not like I saw yours and mine's just better quality.
yeah. I'm really gonna think twice about any. Well, there isn't any new sets announced by Vesco, but I'm gonna think long and hard about it
I gotcha.
before I do it. Another thing I'm thinking long and hard about. Did you like that segue? Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about too.
The Super 7 Godzilla -1 Ultimate.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about that one.
I mean, like the promo pictures they put up look really good.
Yeah. So let me talk this out a little bit. Because when they put up the promo pictures.
Let me talk to you.
Yeah. When they put up the promo pictures for Godzilla 89, Biolante, I looked at them and said, those don't look good. I don't like the looks of those. When the figures came out, they looked exactly like the promo pictures.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, maybe, should that logic hold, like if the promo pictures look really good here, maybe the figure will actually look really good. Because again, while I did not like how the 89 Ultimate looked, it came out looking exactly like how the promo pictures looked. I was, it was like no surprise to me. So I'm kind of like, maybe that's going to hold here. I don't know. But I looked, the pre-order's open for about another 30 days. So I think what we're going to do is, it's going to be one of those things that like, I certainly enjoy sports betting on the weekends. If I have a bet that hits for almost the same amount that it costs, I'll just take that winnings and I'll buy the figure.
There you go.
I think that's
How much is it?
Like 80 bucks.
Yeah. Little pricey for me. Looks really good. The promo pictures look really good. I'm not gonna lie. Me and Super 7, we just don't have the best relationship.
Yep.
There's that Andre figure that they put out like a year ago.
Oh God, I know.
There's the Power Rangers figures that I think are good, but everyone else talks about how bad they are because they don't understand where the Power Rangers are supposed to be located on the figures, which is kind of funny to me. But like, I have a bunch of Super 7 figures. Like, I have an Okada figure that I think is really good, but it's still like, you put it up next to a $20 figure and you're just kind of like, this $20 figure is way more detailed and better. So I think this is a wait till you get it, if you get it, and see type of thing. Or maybe if Rob gets it, like I'll make a decision off of that. What I'm not going to do is just like see it at Target and then like trade it on my Speedway points and buy it.
That was a very specific scenario you just laid out, but I understand.
That's how I got
understand.
the schmuck.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I have it.
As we kind of go through like this like Super 7 kind of talk here, like we have a mutual friend too who has like a lot of like their Ninja Turtle stuff.
Yeah.
And like, which I don't think they're doing anymore. I think there's like some weird rights thing going on there. But those are really cool. Oh, I think it was like it was like something about like, I don't know. I don't really remember the story. I think it was something that Super 7 was doing, and then either Playmates or somebody was doing. Like, there's some sort of like contractual conflict.
Yeah. So the ones that I think Playmates are putting out now are like awesome.
Yeah,
and they're like affordable, and they look really good. Whereas like the Super 7 ones were pretty expensive. Still looked really good and
I think
stuff.
something with the Rat King in particular. I think they can't do designs from like certain. Well, I don't know. So I just know there's something weird went awry.
Is it so that they can't make figures based on like the toys?
No, because I think some of the Super 7 ones were kind of based on like the old Playmates toys.
That's what I mean, like because they're releasing the Playmate toys. So
they must have like. I'm not like really into I don't really like. I'm not really up on like what's going on with the turtles. Like
Yeah.
I know. I will say the only other people who are probably eating as good as Godzilla fans these days are probably Ninja Turtles fans. Like it seems like
Not
every
nearly
other.
as good.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like every other day though. There's like a new movie or show or something coming out. Like they got figures everywhere, but it seems like they're having a good run if you're a Turtles fan.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. It's they had the new movie out, but and like the new shows and the games and stuff. The games are really good.
Yeah.
But like not nearly as good as Godzilla.
Oh
in
no,
my
no. I
opinion.
think it's insane what's going on with Godzilla right now.
Yeah.
What are other properties that are? I don't really have much more figures. What are other properties that are eating well at the moment? Seems Sonic is kind of having a time as well over the last few years.
I think Nintendo's eating pretty well.
Yeah.
Pro wrestling fans, we're eating real well right now.
Oh yeah.
Just don't go online. It's bad vibes online, but like it's just
It's bad vibes
on screen. On screen, you'll have a good time. But, like,
Not as much content dropping as these other properties are, but if you're a Doctor Who fan, you have probably had a pretty good week.
Yep.
I'm a Doctor Who fan, so that was fun. But yeah, there's a lot of good nostalgic properties thriving at the moment. So
yeah.
meanwhile, it seems like Marvel and DC are just spiraling, but
I shouldn't laugh at their misfortune. They had
no,
their time.
I know. Yeah, I don't mean to laugh at it either. And it's just my thing with Marvel is like I mean, whatever. I'm just kind of saying a lot of the same shit that other people have. So it's just too much. It's too much, and it's like too samey. You know? That all used to be. It all kind of used to be very unique, and now it's just too much, and it all just kind of feels too similar. Like every show or movie feels too similar to each other, even when they should be drastically different in terms of, whatever. And then the DC universe is just like,
I don't know, like James Gunn took it over and like got rid of everybody except for Aquaman, who he recast in another role.
Yeah, I asked you the other day, like, because we got that Aquaman preview before -1, and I asked you, I said, like, aren't they rebooting this? Like, isn't this movie like not going to matter?
Yeah, and totally. And so I was like, yeah, and Aquaman's like playing a villain.
Okay, yeah,
in this universe, he's not going to be Aquaman anymore. He's going to be a completely different character. I forget the name, but it's just kind of it doesn't make much sense. Honestly, the only DC character I really care about is Batman.
But the Batman?
That's what I mean.
The Batman. Yes.
I like all Batman stuff pretty much, but like the Batman is by far the best thing that they've done.
Oh, for sure.
In a long time. So
I like the Joker as well.
Yeah, but the Batman for me is like a way better movie.
For sure. Oh yeah, that was the best. But I look forward to like, doing the Joker 2, and like that'll probably be good, and then you'll get the Batman 2. But God, the rest though, I just don't. I sit there and go like, how did you like fumble this like from like the get-go? That's like the thing. It's like they fumbled, I feel like, the DC EU or whatever they call it, like from the beginning.
It's like the Patriots offense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like they're bouncing, like every movie comes out is like, all right, we're going to start Bailey Zappi this week. I mean, we're going to put out like the Justice League movie, but we're going to fuck that up. And then, we're going to like remake the Justice League movie. And I still thought it was awful.
The Snyder Cut was a lot better, but they released it in 4:3 to maintain the artist's original vision.
Oh yeah, that really.
To which I said, like, I'm zooming in on this so I could watch it in fucking 16:9.
Yeah, there's like good things. Like I thought, like like the way Margie Roble plays Harley Quinn. Like that's obviously, I think, pretty iconic.
Yeah.
I think like that's that was really good. Now, not all the movies were good, but I thought. Yeah, probably like of the DCEU, probably the best thing that's came out of it is like that portrayal of Harley Quinn. That's like has really kind of become like pretty iconic.
Cena's Peacemaker is really good.
Oh yeah, that's
but that's the same thing too.
I haven't like really watched that show, but I heard that's really good.
Yeah, the show, but he was also in the Suicide Squad with Harley Quinn.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that one. I saw one of the earlier Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
movies.
that one wasn't the best.
Yeah. I mean, that's Harley Quinn and Ben Affleck playing Batman are two really good portrayals in not very good movies.
Yeah.
Like that Jared Leto Joker, that's fucking horrendous. I hate that. With a while that's going on, I'm like, I don't even know he's got a fucking tattoo in his forehead that says damaged. Like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those 2010s. Like, let's take this in a new direction, appeal to the kids.
Yeah.
What are the kids like? Stitches. Okay.
Stitches. Like brick in your face stitches?
Yeah.
Yeah. That is definitely a 2010 reference right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why I made it.
So, yeah, that one's a mess. Seems like the Transformers stuff is doing okay. It seems like it ebbed and flowed.
I'm pretty removed from it.
Yeah, I haven't watched anything. And I do love that the Linkin Park thing is a meme with the ending with the Linkin Park song. That's a pretty funny meme to me. Imagine if -1 ended that way.
It'd be so out of place.
You could do it like you could kind of recut the scenes a little bit, and instead of wait, did it end with the heartbeat or did it end with the hospital scene?
The hospital scene.
Yeah, so flip it so it ends with the heartbeat and have it end with that Linkin Park song, like as like the heartbeat's going down. Oh, it'd be so fucking good.
Oh, so now that we're at the end of the episode, where listens have probably dropped off a little bit, let's talk about the theater experience we had real quick. So at the end of the movie, when Noriko survives, someone in the theater goes, "Yeah, woo!" and like starts cheering.
Oh, you know what? I will say I did see who that was, and that was not the person that you thought it was.
I know,
okay.
but it was just very funny that like this person was so into the movie that they openly cheered, and then like they were clapping when she survived and stuff, and that made me laugh. So as we're leaving, we're going down an escalator, and someone behind us is like on a phone, just being like talking. And so I'm not really paying attention. So I look around. I was like, "Oh, you're talking to me?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Hey, aren't you the guy who cheered?" Like I didn't see who it was. I was just
yeah.
But like in the back of my mind, I'm like, "You sound like him."
Yeah, cheering in a movie, and one part of me is like, I'm glad you're all so enthused, but at the same time too, I'm like one of those like cynical people who's like, they're not here.
That's what I mean. Like the staff, the cast, they're not here.
Yeah.
So they're not going to hear this cheering.
Along the same lines, I when I went on vacation to Italy in September.
Oh, they didn't.
Not all. Yeah, one of the flights I had that. So I had a layover in Portugal, and I went to Portugal to Venice, and
they clapped.
They clapped.
See, that's stupid.
I turned to my wife.
They know they did a good job. They don't need you layman's to tell them. They know.
My wife and I turned right to each other. We said, "Oh, we're on one of those flights." But you know what? Everyone else
take a note of everyone on that flight and avoid them.
Never saw them again for the rest of my life, as far as I know. But never been on a flight before. They clapped at the end. I was like, and it was like not even like one person clapped and then it like rippled. It was like just everyone just did it at the same time, and I was like, not like one, like it wasn't like one person did it as like a joke or to be serious, and then like everyone kind of fell in. This was just like, no, it was like just. I was like, do you do this all the time? Like,
I've been on flights where that's happened, and it's been the ripple. I've never had like everyone cheer. Most of the time, I'm miserable on flights, so like I ain't cheering for shit.
Well, flying is boring as shit. So.
Except for the time I got like the $2 Bud Lights on my flight to either Texas or Florida. I forget. I think it was Florida because I was pretty tanked by the time I got there.
Well, the best part of international flights is free booze.
But this was like 2015, 26. When did I have my appendectomy? It must have been 2016.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it was like 3 weeks later.
So
it was a terrible idea.
So there you go. That's twice now in the course of 3 months. People have clapped at times that I don't think requires clapping.
But it was just funny how someone approached us and started talking to us about the movie, and I was like trying to immediately like shut them down. I'm such a jerk.
Listen, I'm glad they had a good time. I'm glad we all had a good time. I'm glad that person who cheered was very happy to see Noriko again.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it meant a lot to them.
Well, I feel like this episode has meant a lot to us, but what are we doing in 2 weeks?
More Monarch. I don't think we're at Con Christmas yet, are we? We'll do this live.
We'll do it live.
This comes out September 4th. Oh no. So the next episode is the 18th. Is that because then after that our next episode will be January 1st. So I guess we do have to do Con Christmas next, huh? And as well as the next 2 Monarch episodes. But so last year we were debating between Son of Kong and what wretched one did we do last year? We did King Kong Lives last year, right?
We did.
Yeah. So we did say then, we said, oh, we'll do Son of Kong next year. Are we going to hold true to that?
I have no dog in this fight. We already did the dog shit one I thought was going to be good.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen Son of Kong. So I don't really remember. Like, I remember it gets a bad rep, but I always kind of remember kind of liking it. But also, I think it's like really short. I think it's like 50 minutes. So
okay, perfect.
It's not long. That's but yeah. All right. Well, Son of Kong next episode is Kong Christmas. Just like that. We're gonna be towards the end of December already. Holy shit. Or the midpoint of December, but.
And then we'll have more Monarch and.
Then more Monarch.
GXK will be here before you know it.
Yeah.
Anything you want to leave the beautiful listeners with?
No. Don't clap the end of flights.
Or movies.